Yo, so welcome to this mini masterclass where we'll be discussing Adobe After Effects for people that possibly have never opened up Adobe After Effects before. So without wasting any of your time, let's just jump right into it. And I mean it. So for someone that has never opened up this software before, all this will be empty. There won't be any past project. So what you want to do is either you click on new project, or if you have a project that you've been working on in the past, you can always click on open project and then you can go into your folder to look for that project. But for this class, let us go with new project so I can really show the real, the basics of how you will get to the point of even getting here. So I'll click on new project, and as you have it, this is what you're gonna have. This is the interface that you're gonna have, and you call it the workspace. So with the workspace, there's a lot going on, and I can only imagine, because I remember the first time that I opened this software, I was a little bit intimidated, I'll be honest, but that's the reason why we have this class, so you can kind of clear all your doubts. I can really go as slow and as basic as possible so you can really get a grasp of how this software works. As you can see, it contains a lot of panels. We have our top panels here where you save your different workspaces. We have our menu here. We have our tools. So there's a lot going on, right? This is what you're gonna get for a standard workspace, meaning this is the default workspace that you get. But mind you, you can always move things around to your own, to however you want it. So for example, if I wanted to have this panel right here, this one that says effect and preset, if I wanted to move it somewhere else, all I could do is just click on this right here, and I'm just going to undock it. So undocking means that I've taken it out of where it was, and now I can just move it anywhere. You see how this sort of purple line, purple-ish screen is telling you that you can move this into anywhere that you want around, the interface of the software. So in this case, let me just put it on the side here. And now that you've put it on there, if you close Adobe After Effects and you reopen it, you're gonna be sent back to the default, just the way we had it previously. But if you wanna save this, you wanna make sure that anytime you open up Adobe After Effects again, you wanna keep this workspace. So what you're gonna do is, you see where it says standard, you click on this four lines there, and you're gonna say save as a new workspace. So if I click save as a new workspace, so let us say mini masterclass, so, and I click OK. So now you can see it's giving me a whole new workspace here. So you get this panel here that is signified that this is what you saved. This is the workspace that you last saved. And if I could toggle between different workspaces. So for example, I have this vertical workspace that I previously had. If I click on that, you will see things will get moved around, because this is how I saved my workspace, right? Because this is anytime I'm doing like a vertical video for like IG Reels, this is the workspace that works for me. So if I want to go back to that mini masterclass, I could just click it, and you can see this was what we saved previously. So definitely don't feel like you have to work with the default workspace. You can always move things around. You can save it however you want. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is gonna be our menus. And the menus are these ones right here, where you see file, edit, composition, layer, effect, animation, view, windows, help. So those are your menus. So we'll try to go, I'll try to explain each of them, but mind you, I won't explain everything. I would just like to touch on the things that are more important and the things that I know that you would need as a beginner. So if we go to file, for file, this is where you can create new projects. As you can see, it says new, and you can create new folder. You can have a Photoshop file imported, or create a Cinema 4D file inside within After Effects like that. The next one is open project. Open project, I think, is pretty explanatory. You click on that, and then it takes you to a folder so you can open, a previous project that you have saved somewhere. And open recent is gonna show you most of the projects that you've worked on in the past. So as you can see, these are projects that I've worked on in the past that I can just click on, and the project will get load. It will load up. Browsing Bridge, that's like, Bridge is another software that Adobe does. So it's just a way to kind of, I think it houses like assets and pretty much everything inside your computer. So it's a way to kind of connect between your assets and the software. You can also close the project, or you can maybe close After Effects. It's actually to close After Effects. There's also close project. Then there's save and there's save as. And the difference is, if you save, you're just saving, you're just saving at the time. But if you do save as, you can save like a copy, you can save it as a different name, even though you've had the project saved before. And increment and save, that you just have to go to your project settings and kind of set the timing that you want your project to save incrementally. So if you set it to like 5 minutes, so every 5 minutes it will continue to save incrementally. So it will have like, say like your project name is Larry, so like Larry 01, Larry 02, Larry 03, it will keep going like that. And you have your import. You can, it can bring in files, it can bring in multiple files, like just as you can see right there, those are the things that you can import. Import recent footage, kind of explain to it. Export, this is if you're done with your projects. This is where you can come to as a menu where you can actually add your project into a render queue, and then you're able to export it out. And Adobe Dynamic Link, this is you are able to work between Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere Pro simultaneously, so it's a pretty good one to have. This is very important, but because I don't have a project right now, I'm not able to illustrate that. But when we get to that part, I'll show you what these dependencies does. Then you can also add scripts. You can install scripts. You can install a script UI. There's a ton of them there. That would be for a whole little video. And you also have your project settings. In the project settings, you just have more settings that can help you with your project, so to speak. But yeah, I wouldn't dive into that. What else? So you have exit. Okay, so let us go to the next menu, which is edit. And you all know, basically edit is where you can say, you can copy, you check your history, you can paste. All of these, there's like keyboard shortcuts that you can just use instead of having to come all the way up to this panel. So purge, what that does is sometimes your After Effects project might start dragging, and this is where you're able to kind of like free your memory or kind of like clear your cache. And all of these, what they do really is to just help you so that your project would run faster or smoother. Templates, what do I go into that? Preferences. So preferences, kind of see it as this is a place where you're able to get more advanced settings that will kind of help your software in total. So you have things like preview, which is gonna affect like how you preview your playback and all of that. Display, there's a lot of them. So this is just where you get to do more settings to your software. So I wouldn't want to dive into this because that's not really what this is about, but just know you have that there and you can always get to it. And you have keyboard shortcuts, and here you're able to change your keyboard shortcuts to whatever you want, but the standard ones, they're actually pretty good. If you, I wouldn't say mess with it, but if you want to, it's there for you. So let's go to composition. With composition, this is one of the first step, I would say, whenever you want to work inside of After Effects, because for you to do anything inside of this program, you have to start with a new composition. And as you can see down here, even you have to click create a new composition, because anything you're working on, your timeline is going to be inside a composition. If you don't have a composition, you're not able to do anything inside this software. So like, as you can see, I can't even right click, I can bring anything into it. So it needs a new composition for it to get started. So that's what that is. If I click on new composition, you will see we'll create this menu right here for me to dial in whatever I want. And this is like a standard preset, but you could always kind of get into it and, you know, mess with it to your taste, or depending on what the project that you're working on needs. But I wouldn't dive into this right now because that's not what the current topic is. Still under composition, here you can add the composition into a render queue. You can save a frame inside your composition and bring it back, you know, as a reference, or you want to take it to Photoshop and kind of like tweak it and bring it back into After Effects, you know, stuff like that. I'll move on to the next one, which is layers. And with layers, you have you can create a new layer. Like I said again, unfortunately, because there's no composition, a lot of these are disabled. But I promise you, once we get to the point where I'm able to create a new composition, all of these will be turned on, and then you can see what each of them do. But you just kind of have an idea of this is where you come to create a new layer inside your composition. If we go to effect is also this right here, this panel right here is the same thing here. So all these effects that you see in here is what is here as well, but they're all disabled here because there's no composition again. And animation, same thing, is all disabled because there's no composition, but this is where you can save an animation preset. So let's say you worked on a project and you like a certain way, like let's say your text animation, and you wanted to save it. So this would be a good way, the panel where you're able to save such animation as a preset. We'll go to view. This is where you see like guides, your rulers, things that will just help you, you know, your layouts and all, you know, that kinds of stuff. Windows is actually it consists of like your workspace, the workspace that we talked about earlier. You can see these are all the workspaces that I have, so I'm able to, you know, toggle between any workspace that I want, and I can always save a new one. I can edit the one that I currently have, so I can save it as a new one, so however I want it. You can also install extensions. Extensions are kind of like third-party plugins that would help speed up your workflow, you know, however. There's a line, there's audio, brushes, character. So all of this is just, these are like panels that if you click on them, they would pop up as a new panel, so to speak. And help, obviously, is if you do need any help with this software, or there's something that is not working out, this sort of like a resource that you can use to kind of figure things out. Or sometimes it would even take you to Adobe website and you'll be able to figure it out. Now that we just finished talking about the menu, let's move on to talking about the panels. And these are your panels here. You see it's project, this is your timeline here, this is where your composition would be, and these are some extra panels that will just help with putting your composition together. This right here is the project, and this is where if you import anything into After Effects, this is where they will all be. So if I double click, double clicking means I'm able to bring in a file. So I'm gonna go up now to bring in a photo. So like I said, you double click and you choose your file. So this is where all your projects will be, and you can even bring in multiple files. I can select a video and another photo, and I open up. As you can see, you can also import either Illustrator files or Photoshop files. So if I double click, this is an Illustrator file, and I can just import. And with the Illustrator files, it will give you an extra prompt to choose if you want to import it as a footage or a composition, depending on what you want. So in this case, I'll just do it as a footage. And you can also import Photoshop file, which is the same thing it would ask. I'll just merge it. So that's just to let you know that you can import a footage, Photoshop file, Illustrator file, or photos. So whatever that is able to accept, you'll be able to import it in that workspace, in that panel, sorry. So under here, we have create new folder. So here I can select it all and I can drag them to create a new folder, or I can just click to create a new folder, and then I can drag in all my files into that new folder if I want. And you'll have composition. This is where so you can create your new composition in 3 ways. So if I click on this icon here, this is the icon for creating a composition. If I click on it, you can see this is the panel, and then if I click OK, it creates a new composition. As you can see, it creates a new composition. I'll go back. You can also click on here, create new composition. It does the same thing. I can go back. I can come up to this panel here. I can create a new composition right there. And I can also do a keyboard shortcut, Command N, it will create a new composition. So that's 4 ways that you can create a new composition. And this right next to it, I wouldn't worry about that right now. It's just settings. Then you see this where it says 16 BPC. It's kind of like your color space, something that has to do with colors, your color depth, sorry. So by default, it's gonna be on 8 BPC, but you can hold on Alt and then click, it will change to 16 and 32. But just stick with 8 only if you want your colors to be, I guess, more vibrant, or you basically want to increase your color depth. Then you can do what I just did. Then next to it, you have your delete. I can select anything inside this my project panel and just click delete. So there you go with that. And if we come in here, this is where your composition will be sitting down when you create a new composition. So if I click on that and I click OK, you can see right there, I've created a new composition. And just so you know, anytime you create a new composition, automatically you get a timeline, and the duration of the timeline depends on what you've set your composition settings to be. So if I go back, Command Z, and I click create new composition again, and now let us look at the preset we have here. We have HD 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. And mind you, you can always change it. You can change your frame rate. I can change it to 15 if I want. This is where I change my duration. I can change it to 2 seconds if I want. And even this, you can always change it. You can see if you click on the preset here, there's for social media, there's for like full HD, there's for 4K. However you want it, you can always pick. And you can also manually insert any number that you want for your composition, and you can rename it. Then I'll just click OK for 2 seconds. So we have this at a 24 seconds per 24 frames per second, sorry. So now moving on to, before I move on, down here, this is where you can play with your zooms while you're working on your project. So if I do 1.5, you can see how small it is compared to if I do fit up to 100%, which is the actual scale of my composition. And there's a keyboard shortcut, which is the less than and greater sign right there. You can, however you want. You can also use your mouse cursor, the middle one, to kind of, you just scroll and it will get larger or smaller. And next to it is your resolution. So what this means is sometimes when you're working, if you're working in full resolution, your composition might start to lag depending on how much power that your computer can take. So a helpful thing here is you can change your resolution to either half, quarter, or third, and you can even customize it as well. You can also put it on auto, and what that would do is, depending on how you're working, it would change accordingly. But I typically just do either half or full. I mean, it depends on the project. So the next one is just pretty much it has to do with resolution as well. You can turn it on, turn it off. And this right here, you're toggling between transparency and opaque. And the next to it is you're toggling between your mask. If you have a mask on a layer, this is where you toggle to turn off the mask or not. So that's it right there. And here, this is, you can pick an area of interest. So if I click on that, and so let's say I wanted to render just this part of my composition, I'm able to do that using this, and I can click to get it out. And the next thing is your title and action save. If I click on it, it will just help me to kind of give me sort of a guide for, like, if I wanted it to go for broadcast or TV, you know, and it serves as sort of like a ruler. So you can see this plus sign right here. That's the center of my composition. So if I was saying I was working with like text layers and I'm trying to figure out where the middle is, that's a very helpful one right there. So, and I wouldn't really go into all of this, but as time goes on, we'll definitely talk about those. So now let's go to the next one, which is our timeline. So our timeline, as you can see, there's really nothing on our timeline right now. But if I drag, let's say I drag this video into this, you can see right here, the video is already in our composition, and then the timeline shows the duration of the video. So yeah, that's really the work of the timeline. It's able to give you the length of your video, and this is where you see things like your keyframes. You know, as time as we move forward, you'll get to understand how the timeline works. And here, this is where your layers will be. So here you can stack up as many layers as possible. I think it's endless. I'm not sure if there's a cap to it, but I doubt it. So anyways, so this is where your layers will be. This is where your timeline will be. This is your composition. These are your assets for your projects. And also, if you did click on anything in your project, there will be sort of a description of what that particular asset is. So as I click on this photo, you can see it tells me the size, the colors, and all of that. If you did the same thing with a video, you can see it's telling me this is a 4K video. It's shot at 29.9 frame per second. the depth, all of that. So it basically just give me a description of that video or any file for that matter. Yeah, so real quick before we round up for this class, I wanted to kind of dive a little bit into how you will go about actually, like, how do you even create a new project, with all this little knowledge that I've kind of like had now. How do I kind of put this thing into use? So that's kind of like what I wanted us to kind of dive into a little bit, so you can get a little bit more, so it doesn't just feel like, man, this is such a boring tutorial. So yeah, let's dive into it. So let's say you open After Effects, you're just trying to mess around it, but you want to create a project. So I can click on my new composition. Let us go with 1920 by 1080. On the frame rate, let us do 24 frames per second. I'll do 5 seconds and I'll click OK. So now I have my composition, and my composition name is comp1. Mind you, I can rename. Let's say I forgot to put the name earlier. I can rename it. I can just say masterclass mini. So you can rename, and you can always edit your composition. And all you can do is just come here and goes to composition settings, and there you have it. You can change it on this color black right here. You can also change it to whatever color you want. Some people like to do white, some people like to do gray. I just leave mine to black, but anyways, it's there for you. You can change it. So remember I was saying earlier that once we have a composition, at least most of them will come to life, and as you can see, a lot of them have started popping up now. So now that we have a new composition, let us try to just import some things, or let's create a layer. Let's create everything inside After Effects. Mind you, this was not prepared, so like I said, I want this. I'm seeing myself in the shoes of a rookie, someone that's never opened After Effects before, but they just want to mess around with it to just get a hang of it. So that's the way I'm gonna kind of go through this. So we have our composition. Let us add like a background. So what we can do is we can right click here. You see where it says new. We have the option for text. We have the option for solid. We have a light. We have camera. We can create a null object, a shape layer, adjustment layer. And you can also come up here where it says layer, and you see new. Same thing you have there, you can do the same thing up here. And there's a keyboard shortcut, which is Command Y or Control Y for those of you who are using Windows. I'm even using Windows. I don't know why I said Command. But yeah, you can create a new solid, and you can either make it comp size, or you can even make it smaller. And let me make mine smaller so we can see the difference, as you can see right there, and I can still manipulate it to however I want. So this is my layer inside of my composition. For every layer that you put inside your composition will carry an attribute. So the attributes are the transform, which is they have 5 attributes that you can play with, as your anchor point, your position, your scale, your rotation, and your transparency, opacity. So if you like to use shortcuts like me, just know that most of these attributes kind of have their first letters as the shortcut for it. So for position, it will be P. For scale, it will be S. For anchor point, it will be A. For opacity is the only one that is different. So you'll be thinking it's probably gonna be an O, but it's not an O, it's actually a T. So yeah, and rotation is R. So there you have it. You have all your attributes. So since this is our composition right there, bring it back up so it's at 100% right now. Let us add some shapes to just have something going on here. So this is where we can come to the tool panel. So the tools, we have the selection tool, we have the hand tool. The selection tool is basically kind of like in Photoshop, it's like default. You're not doing anything, so your selection tool is what you would right now it's my selection tool, and the shortcut for it, it's V. So the next one is the hand tool, and I can just hold space bar. It will bring up the hand tool, and what that would do for me is I can move my composition around, as you can see, like that. The next one is your zoom. So I can zoom in and I can zoom out. I don't think that's really but you can press V to bring back your selection tool. The next one is orbit around, and that would be for your camera, I believe. I haven't used this in a minute, so just so I make sure. So let us create a camera. Go to new and click camera, and let us set this to 50 mm because why not. And then let us toggle switches here and change, give our background, let us give it 3D attributes so that the camera would affect it, because if you don't click this 3D icon here, whatever you do with your camera would not affect that layer, not until you had a 3D icon, which is gonna tell the camera that, oh, okay, this is a 3D layer, then they'll be able to interact. So yeah, so now that I have a camera in the scene, let us go see. Oh yeah, like I said, the orbit around is a tool for the camera. So you can see if I use it to move around now, the camera is moving around. The plane is still where it is, it's just the camera. So imagine this is the plane, it's just the camera that is moving like this. This is what is happening. So you might be thinking, oh, I'm rotating the solid. No, I'm actually not rotating the solid. Like I said, what I'm doing is the camera that is moving it. So let's say if I were to take off 3D from it and I do the same thing, you can see nothing is going to happen because there's no 3D icon next to it to tell After Effects that this is a 3D layer. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now let's move to the next one. This is your pan. Yeah, it's your pan tool, and what that is also for the camera. And sorry, I haven't used all these things in a while, so I was a little bit, oh sorry, this is not, it wasn't a 3D layer. So let me put it back on 3D. So you can see I can kind of move my camera in sort of a plane like that. And the next one is gonna be the dolly, which is kind of like zooming in and zooming out. So it's like your camera is here and you're just moving your camera and you're moving out. So it's like, it's a dolly. So that's that. What do we have next? We have a rotation tool. With rotation tool, you can even press shortcut for it is W. If I press W, now I can just go and rotate my layer however I want, clockwise, anti-clockwise. Since it's a 3D layer, I can also do it in x-axis. So let's go to the next one, which is your pen behind tool. So the shortcut for that is Y, and what that does is it helps you move your anchor point. Let me turn off 3D layer so we can see how the pen behind tool works. So as you can see, we have this the middle of our which is the anchor point, it's in the middle. So with the pen behind tool, I can use it to move the anchor point. If I hold shift, I can use it to hold it and let it snap, as you can see right here, like that. So, and you might be wondering, okay, what's the point of moving the anchor point? So the point of moving the anchor point is, so let's say I wanted to scale this background, the solid. So because the anchor point is currently in the middle, if I hold shift and I'm scaling, you can see it scales from the middle, as you can see, like that. But then watch now, when I move the anchor point, let's say I move it down like that, and now let me try to do the same scaling. You can see that, so it scales now from where the anchor point is. So you can imagine how creative you can get with that. So yeah. And the next tool will be our mask tool. So depending on the shape of the mask, we have our triangle, we have our rounded, ellipse, whatever. So let's just pick our triangle, for example. And mind you, if you don't select any layer, it wouldn't work. Instead of creating a mask, it will create a shape layer. So because I'm not clicking on anything right now, on any layer, sorry, it will create a shape layer. But if I were to click on the solid and then I drag, then it will create a mask. That's very, very, very important to know, because it's a very rookie mistake that you'll probably be wondering, why is this not working? So just keep that in mind. Then the next one is your mask tool. These, you're able to draw any mask, and the same thing applies here. If I don't select, it would create a shape layer, but if I do select, I'm able to create a mask, and like you can see, I can create any mask shape that I want on top of my layer. So that goes that. And the next one is your text tool. So the text tool, I'm able to write text like that, and once my text is up, then I would have this to my right panel right here. It says characters, so I'm able to manipulate my text. So if I were to select my text, I can change the font, I can change the size, I can change the spacing vertically, horizontally. I can, however you want, for the text. So as that. The next one is the brush tool. So the brush tool is not something that just works on any kind of layer. It works with it works in the layer panel. How do I explain this? So basically it won't work in your composition. So I have to double click on the composition for my brush to activate. So as you can see, I had to double click. So let's say my brush is selected. As you can see down here, let me change its color to white, and then I can use my brush. But if I come to my composition, it will show up, right? But you can see I don't have my brush selected. But if I go back again to the layer, you can see I'm able to use my brush right there. And you can change the size, you can change the softness, you can even change the duration, and there's these different sort of types of however you want your brush to react, but we won't go into that for now. So the next one is your clone stamp tool, which is kind of like the same thing with Photoshop. What the clone stamp does. Also, this also works in a layer mode. So you hold Alt, and you can see just same thing with Photoshop. So let's go back. The next thing is eraser. Eraser also works in the layer panel. Like that, you can see it's erasing everything. I can just hold Control and click on the mouse, hold the mouse, and I can scale up or down, sorry. And you can see I can sort of just use the eraser to clean everything. You can see it affects the layer there. And we have our roto brush. Our roto brush is more for like VFX stuff, so I wouldn't get into that now. And last one is the puppet tool. The puppet tool is more like you have you create points that you can manipulate eventually. So you can see how I created this point, then I can now move things around. But this is not the best example to use. But I hope all of these kind of helps give an idea of how, you know, how you would do things inside of After Effects. So I hope that was very helpful, or it gives you sort of a foundation of what it is like as a totally beginner, as someone that has never opened After Effects. I hope that that can give you a little bit of confidence to open the software and just kind of, you know, play around. I purposely didn't want to get into a lot, so it's not too much you know, in one tutorial. But yeah, I hope that helps. Depending on how you guys react to this video, and if you guys want a more, you want us to push forward and start experimenting, start working on actual projects, then I will be more than happy to possibly make this a series where, depending on what you guys request, then we'll make more tutorials based on that. But yeah, my goal for this mini masterclass was really to just give you sort of a foundation and just, you know, boost the confidence that, you know what, it's just a software. So yeah, like I know it can be intimidating, but yeah, I really hope this will help. So yeah, practice is another thing that you definitely don't want to ignore. Don't just watch the tutorial and just assume, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's saying. Definitely put things to practice. You know, just everything that you see in the tutorial, try to like get yourself familiar with it. And yeah, I would hope this helps, and see you guys in another video. All right, ciao.